I think the majority of what you'll find when you look online or you see it on social media is everyone says that's always like a cortisol surge time. Now, I think that's probably true and a chunk of time, but I also think, well, we have to think about why the cortisol is surging, first of all. And like I said before, it can be stress, diet, and then there's that blood sugar piece that's really important. If you have dysregulated blood sugar through the day and it's up and down, let's say you're not eating enough protein at your meals, or you're eating erratically, or you're skipping meals, you can have a blood sugar roller coaster all day. And then when it does drop in the night to keep you alive, the body will put out cortisol. So it can be a cortisol issue that's related to the blood sugar. And, that I think when you wake up in that state, if it's a blood sugar cortisol issue, you might notice feeling very alert, like all of a sudden you're really awake. Maybe you're a little anxious or restless, things like that. But also, we can have things like our liver, because the liver in Chinese medicine, the time for liver activity
Yep.
tends to be that 2 to 4, which again can be related to blood sugar because the liver might have to help put out glycogen to keep you alive and functioning. But it could be like that you're not detoxing well your hormones that are supposed to be kind of recycling and detoxing overnight. And then, there's even very nuanced things that are not necessarily true for everyone, but parasites and, gut health, things like that, parasites are very active overnight. So, I mean, there's so many potentials there, but I would say the first place a woman should think and start, if she's having that constant or, couple times a week, even 2 to 4 a.m. wake up, is blood sugar. Like dial in the blood sugar first. And then if that doesn't make a difference some people have hypoglycemia, low blood sugar swings, so they may do well to at least start by having a little tiny snack at bedtime, as in like, some peanut butter with honey or almond butter with honey, to see, does that actually impact my sleep or my ability to stay asleep through the night? And then you can kind of start to peel back the layers from there. Yeah, I think once we kind of cross off some of those major players, insulin as a hormone goes back to that blood sugar piece. And, that's something we have to address because that's usually part of the picture. And if we have a blood sugar swing and then that cortisol comes out and it's high at night when it should be the lowest, that's going to interfere with that melatonin. So if cortisol is high, melatonin is low. They're kind of the sun and the moon. So like in the morning, we should have a nice burst of cortisol. And then, over the day it's decreasing and then melatonin's going to come up. So if insulin's out of balance, like I said, blood sugar crashes can really trigger that wake up. And then thyroid hormones really impact sleep kind of indirectly through metabolism and through the way it impacts your nervous system activity. So all those hormones together are a system, right? So we're not just thinking about sex hormones, but the whole system is at play here. Stress is definitely one of the biggest disruptors of our hormones and then therefore our sleep. Some of the things you can really think of that would show you have potentially some stress dysregulation would be like feeling really wired, but also tired at night. Like maybe your brain is going, or you feel a little buzzy, but you're also exhausted. If you're getting a second wind at night, when it's, 9, 10 p.m., you should be kind of winding down. And you're also like, maybe it's because you think you just need to work, but that's actually not the issue. It's like your habits are part of this. If you wake up, whether it's the middle of the night or in the morning, anxious, or you feel like I said, kind of jittery, that can be another one. Just and having trouble just like shutting your brain off. So it's kind of like your body can be stuck in a fight or flight, and so you're not prioritizing, your body's not prioritizing rest and recovery. So yeah, that chronic stress is really going to keep cortisol elevated, block the melatonin. Therefore, also that will impact your progesterone production and also will throw off the blood sugar regulation. And this is something I have to say because I feel like I have to say it every time I have the chance, is that because it shocked me that when you go to the lab or a lab and you have blood drawn or at your doctor, and then it goes through a LabCorp or Quest, let's say, the values on that report, like when you get the report and you look at it and it's like you're high, you're low, or you're fine, those values, the range, is literally made up by the lab. And it changes per lab, per city, state. It's all based on the population coming in.
Yeah.
That's not optimal and that's not even science backed. So it's unfortunate, but that's just the system, right? And so we have to know that up front because otherwise we look at it and we get either freaked out about things that are not necessarily a problem for us. If we look at the whole picture of your labs, I
Yep.
get messages from clients that are ready to see me and have shared the labs with me that they've had drawn, for instance, or I've shared it with them that, I ordered, but I look at it, they say, "Oh my gosh, this one marker, it's like it's flagged and I'm freaked out, and we haven't met yet, and so I have to remind them. I say, "Look, I promise we're going to go through all of this together and know that I don't look at one marker in isolation because that marker is related to your whole body. And
Yep.
so we have to start to like be more of a detective, and that's just part of my training. And what I really love doing is going deep on, the entirety of it. But yeah, that was a tangent, but it's
But it's
frustrating to me
important.
because
It's
no
true.
one no one knows, and it's like I was shocked when I learned that. I'm never on the fence about a CGM, but the problem is I always want people to know that with CGMs, there are different companies, there's different reliability, it's not inexpensive. Do I think it's a first line thing? Absolutely not. Can it be nice? Yes. It's not going to tell us anything about our hormones though. It's so and I think this is super important to know. A CGM is testing like interstitial fluid. It's not even directly testing like blood sugar in the blood, but it gives us a great picture of patterns and trends. So it's not a bad idea to look at it and kind of dial in your diet and your swings throughout the day and things like that, which do obviously, like we talked about, impact your hormones at the end of the day. But I always am a little cautious with them depending on someone's budget and think like, what else can we do that's more accessible first and make sure we're, even the Aura Ring and the trackers, from the money standpoint, I'd rather you invest in something like that. And CGMs, one thing that I also have to say is that when you sleep, if you lay on it, it can impact the data. So it's kind of with the sleep piece specifically, it can be, the data itself can be skewed because someone sleeps on, usually we put it here on our arm or back of our arm. So that actually can be a problem to try to like make sure the sleep data we're getting from our blood sugar is accurate. So, I'm a fan if someone has expendable income and they just, and ideally we're doing it for two or three of them, like in 2 or 3 cycles of, 2 weeks at a time to kind of get the trending, right? But at the end of the day, if we're trying to look at budget and like what's accessible to us, I always think blood labs for sure, right? And then, dialing in the foundations we talked about, and then maybe even something more fancy like a tracker, like a Whoop or an Aura.